Behind the almost virtuous shine of perfectionism lies a fear as deep as it is poorly understood, the fear of one's own power. Many believe that being a perfectionist is a sign of discipline, commitment to excellence, or even a high moral standard. Society tends to applaud those who accept nothing less than the best. But what if all of this is just an illusion? What if behind this relentless pursuit of perfection, there is not a strength but a weakness, an unconscious strategy to avoid facing something much more frightening, the true potential that each individual carries within themselves? For Carl Jung, perfectionism is not necessarily a virtue. In the view of the Swiss psychiatrist, it can be a sophisticated mechanism of self-sabotage. The human mind creates masks, the so-called personas, to hide parts of the self that it fears to expose to the world. And in many cases, perfectionism is precisely that mask, an impeccable facade that protects the individual not only from external judgment, but above all from the terror of having to take responsibility for their own greatness. Imagine someone who dreams of writing a book, launching a business, changing careers, or even speaking in public. This person spends years studying, planning, adjusting every detail, but they never start. They never take the first step because there is always something that isn't good enough yet. The text isn't perfect, the plan isn't solid, the idea still needs adjustments. And so the days, months, and years go by. In this case, perfectionism is not about quality. It is about fear of failure, of course, but even deeper fear of success, because success brings with it a painful revelation that one could have done much more, much earlier. Perfectionism creates a state of elegant paralysis. The individual does not move, but seems busy. They are always working on something, always improving a detail, and in the meantime, they avoid facing the most dangerous question of all. What am I really capable of? For the answer to that question is not only grand, it is also frightening. Discovering one's own power also means having to look at lost time, wasted opportunities, and the responsibility that comes with one's own strength. Jung asserted that the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche where desires, fears, and repressed potentials reside, often includes precisely this unrecognized greatness. And when someone keeps it hidden, they create acceptable justifications for not launching themselves into the world. Perfectionism is one of the most socially valued traits. It is much more acceptable to say, "I haven't started because I want it to be perfect," than to admit, "I haven't started because I'm afraid of what I might become." The concept of shadow projection refers to the tendency to attribute one's own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or impulses to others. This psychological mechanism can be damaging, as it distorts reality and can lead to manipulation and harm towards others. Understanding shadow projection can help individuals navigate complex relationships and interactions more effectively. By being aware of the warning signs and taking steps to protect oneself, it's possible to minimize the impact of shadow projection and maintain healthier relationships. Through self-reflection and introspection, individuals can gain a deeper understanding of themselves and others, leading to greater emotional intelligence and personal growth. By recognizing and integrating our shadow, we can cultivate more authentic and meaningful relationships and live a more authentic and fulfilling life. This process allows individuals to take responsibility for their own thoughts, feelings, and actions, leading to greater autonomy and emotional intelligence. Perfectionism can be a complex and multifaceted issue, often rooted in deep-seated fears and insecurities. According to Carl Jung, perfectionism can be a sophisticated mechanism of self-sabotage, where individuals create an impeccable facade to protect themselves from external judgment and the terror of taking responsibility for their own greatness. This fear of one's own power and potential can lead to a state of elegant paralysis, where individuals seem busy and productive, but are actually avoiding taking action towards their goals. By recognizing and integrating our shadow, we can cultivate more authentic and meaningful relationships and live a more authentic and fulfilling life. To break free from the cycle of perfectionism, individuals can take several steps. These include acting before feeling ready, setting clear limits for preparation, and starting to dialogue with their shadow. By accepting that imperfection is a natural part of the creative process, and that it is okay to make mistakes, individuals can begin to overcome their fear of failure and take action towards their goals. Ultimately, perfectionism is often a disguised form of fear, a fear of one's own power and potential. By understanding the underlying psychological mechanisms and recognizing the warning signs, individuals can take steps to cultivate a more authentic and fulfilling life. This process requires self-reflection, introspection, and a willingness to confront one's fears and insecurities. By embracing imperfection and taking action towards their goals, individuals can develop greater emotional intelligence, autonomy, and personal growth. This journey towards self-discovery and acceptance can be challenging, but it can also lead to a more authentic and meaningful life. Perfectionism can be a double-edged sword, driving individuals to achieve high standards, while also leading to an unhealthy obsession with flawlessness. This can cause individuals to become overly critical of themselves and others, setting unrealistically high standards and fearing failure or mistakes. Perfectionism can have negative consequences, such as anxiety, burnout, decreased productivity, strained relationships, and low self-esteem. To overcome perfectionism, individuals can try setting realistic goals and expectations, practicing self-compassion and self-acceptance, and focusing on progress rather than perfection. Developing a growth mindset and learning from mistakes can also be helpful. Seeking support from others and building a growth-oriented community can provide a safe and encouraging environment for individuals to work on. Overcoming their perfectionism. By recognizing the signs of perfectionism and taking steps to manage it, individuals can cultivate a more balanced and healthy approach to achieving their goals. This can involve embracing imperfection and taking action towards their goals, rather than getting bogged down in details or fearing failure. With the right mindset and support, individuals can learn to strive for excellence without being held back by perfectionism. Ultimately, overcoming perfectionism requires a willingness to confront one's fears and insecurities, and to develop a more compassionate and accepting attitude towards oneself and others. By doing so, individuals can break free from the cycle of perfectionism and cultivate a more authentic and fulfilling life. Perfectionism can also be a coping mechanism for individuals who struggle with feelings of inadequacy or low self-esteem. By striving for perfection, they may feel like they can gain a sense of control and validation. However, this can lead to a never-ending cycle of self-criticism and disappointment. To break free from this cycle, individuals can practice self-compassion and challenge their negative self-talk. They can also focus on building their self-esteem by acknowledging and celebrating their strengths and accomplishments. Additionally, individuals can benefit from developing a growth mindset, which involves embracing challenges and viewing failures as opportunities for growth and learning. By adopting this mindset, individuals can begin to see perfectionism as a limiting and unrealistic expectation, and instead strive for progress and improvement. This can lead to greater confidence, resilience, and overall well-being. It's also important to recognize that perfectionism can be influenced by societal and cultural expectations. Individuals may feel pressure to conform to certain standards or norms, and this can contribute to their perfectionistic tendencies. By being aware of these external influences, individuals can begin to develop a more authentic and compassionate approach to achieving their goals. Ultimately, overcoming perfectionism requires a holistic approach that addresses the underlying causes and promotes self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-compassion. By working on these areas, individuals can develop a more positive and realistic mindset and cultivate a more fulfilling and meaningful life. One of the most effective ways to overcome perfectionism is to focus on progress rather than perfection. This involves setting realistic goals and celebrating small wins along the way. By acknowledging and appreciating progress, individuals can build momentum and motivation and develop a more positive and growth-oriented mindset. Another key strategy is to practice mindfulness and self-compassion. This involves being kind and understanding towards oneself and recognizing that mistakes and imperfections are a natural part of the learning and growth process. By cultivating a more compassionate and accepting attitude, individuals can reduce their stress and anxiety and develop a more resilient and adaptive approach to challenges. It's also important to recognize that perfectionism is often driven by fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. By facing and working through these fears, individuals can begin to let go of their need for perfection and develop a more courageous and confident approach to life. Ultimately, overcoming perfectionism requires a willingness to be imperfect and to take risks. By embracing imperfection and uncertainty, individuals can develop a more authentic and meaningful life and cultivate a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment.